this is going to be tricky. Sorry? All right. Well, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Everyone here, everyone out there. People, Art, who is on, with a great, wonderful boat behind him, which we would love to have a boat here. Here we have just we have an auditorium, but it'll do. So hope everyone has survived this. Miriam is groaning. Yeah, it's not the heat, it's the humidity, right? That's where we are with this. But today's been a hot one, and it's a really humid one. But Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat is here, and I guess we should start up with the lighting of the candles, right? That's like a good place to start. Oh, I do nigun? Yes, of course we should start with nigun. That's a better idea. Yai da 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 yai da 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 yai da 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 yai da 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 yai da 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 yai da 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 yai da 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 yai da 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 ya da 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 ya da 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 ya da 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 ya da 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 da. Okay, now you want to pick up the candles? There we go. Excellent. Do we have all our tools here? I see the candles. I'm just looking for matches. Nobody smokes anymore. It's not like people have matches. And, look at this. You can use the formal lighter. So. Yeah, there you go. Excellent. English reading, right? Of that. Shall we? Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu להדליק נר של שבת. So we will now pick up. We're going to scroll through the official online Seder Siddur here. So it's getting to Passover already. That's what it is. But this actually, there's a reason I'm doing this tune, which is it's summertime, and this is a song that, a tune that I've learned when I was a summer camper 40 years ago in the Berkshires. And my daughter's up there now, and I was just talking with her earlier today, and I was like, we're going to do this. And I was like, this was written before I got there. So, in any event, this is Ms. Moshir. Ms. Moshir is sing a song for Shabbat. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון. שיר, do it again, okay? יום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון. לחגיד בבוקר חסדך באמונתך בלילות עלי עשור ועלי נבל עלי היגיון בחינו. Back to the top. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון. כי שימחתני אדוני בפועלך, במעשה ידיך ארנן. מה גדלו מעשיך אדוני מאוד, עמקו משבותיך. Guess where we go now? מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון. So we will do one more Shabbat song, which is another one that goes back to my days, you know, when I had hair and all that kind of thing. I had a lot of it, long hair at the time. But let's do Or Zarua, which is both one of my favorite melodies, Jeff Klepper's melody of it. But also, I love the words, you know, that light is sown, you know, for the righteous and for the upright at heart. I think that's a great little pithy phrase. So, Or Zarua LaTzadik u'lishrei lev simcha, Lo Zarua LaTzadik u'lishrei lev simcha, O Zarua LaTzadik u'lishrei lev simcha, u'lishrei lev simcha, O Zarua LaTzadik u'lishrei lev simcha, u'lishrei lev simcha. O Zarua LaTzadik u'lishrei lev simcha, O Zarua LaTzadik u'lishrei lev simcha. So, are you guys up? Well, this is like audience choice here, you know. I wanted to do, and I'll explain why, a version that incorporates L'chadodi, but it's actually a Yiddish song called Shiri Biri Bim. And I recently was at a conference, and they did a lovely Friday night ecumenical Sabbath service, but it was an ecumenical service for my law firm. And we had Muslims there, we had Catholics there, we had Protestants there, and I got them all to sing this version. But you guys have to be willing to sing Chiri Biri Bing, Chiri Biri Bom, and if you don't, I get it, it's hot and it's summer, so we can skip it. So, you guys up for doing Chiri Bims? You got? Oh boy. Whatever key that is, that's that'll do. So, I'm going to sing various things, and each time, so I'm going to sing in Yiddish. Az ich will singen, Lecha Doidi, sollst du singen, nein, I got it, sollst du, I'm the one key. Az ich will singen, Lecha Doidi, sollst du singen, Chiri Biri Bam. Az ich will singen, I'll sing, Lecha Kala, sollst du singen, Chiri Biri. I'll sing a Lecha Doidi, Chiri Biri Bim, a Likrat Kala, Chiri Biri Bam. You got your part? It's Chiri Biri Bim, Chiri Biri Bam, Chiri Biri Bim, Chiri Biri Bam. Then we're all sing, Oi Chiri Biri Biri Bim Bam Bam, Oi Chiri Biri Biri Bim Bam Bam. Oi, that's the hard part, but you can get through it. So let's try that. As ich will singen, Lichadoidi. Sollst du singen, Chiribiri. Als ich will singen, Likras Kala. Sollst du singen, Chiribiri. Licha, I get the right key. Licha doidi, chiribiri bim. Likrat kala, chiribiri bam. Licha doidi, likrat kala, chiribiri biri 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 bam. Chiribam, chiribim. A chiribim bam bim bam bim bam. A chiribim, chiribam. A bitty bim bam bim bam bim bam. Here's the hard part. Oi chitty bitty bitty bim bam bam. Oi chitty bitty bitty bim bam bam. Oi chitty bitty bitty bim bam bam. Oi chitty bitty bitty bam. We have one more bit to sing. As ich will singen, Jerusalem. Sollst du singen, chitty bitty bim. Ich will singen, ihr HaKodesh, the holy city. Sollst du singen, Chiribiri Bam. Jerusalem, Chiribiri Bim. Ihr HaKodesh, Chiribiri Bam. Jerusalem, ihr HaKodesh, Chiribiri Biri 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 Bam. Chiribam, Chiribim. A chitty bim bam bim bam bim bam. A chitty bim, chitty bam. A chitty bim bam bim bam bim bam. Hard part. Oi chitty bitty bitty bim bam bam. Oi chitty bitty bitty bim bam bam. Oi chitty bitty bitty bim bam bam. Oi chitty bitty bitty bam. We'll take that in lieu of Luchadod. There we go. Lichadodi, likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nikabela. Lichadodi, likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nikabela. Shamor v'zachor v'dibur echad, hishmi anu el nam echad, Adonai echanu shemo echad. נרד ותהילה לכדודי לקראת קלה פני שבת נקבלה לכדודי לקראת קלה פני שבת נקבלה לקראת שבת לכו ונעילה כי היא מקור הברכה מראש מקדם נסוכה סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה לכדודי לקראת קלה פני שבת נקבלה לכדודי לקראת קלה פני שבת נקבלה התעוררי התעוררי כי באורך קומי אורי 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 שיר דברי כיוון אדוני הליך נגלה לכדודי לקראת קלה פני שבת נקבלה לכדודי לקראת קלה פני שבת נקבלה. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה בעמד יברח חירותי וימליך מלכותי בחייכון וביומכון וביייכון דכל בית ישראל בעגלה בעגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן יהי שמי רבה מברך ועל עמול עלמיה יתברך יתברך וישתבח, יתפאר יתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל, שמי דקודשה בריחו לעילה. מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דאמירן בעלמא ויאמרו אמן. Da 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 da. La da 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 da. La da 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 ya da 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 ya da 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 da. La da 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 ya da 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 da. La da 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 da. Baruchu et Adonai Hamivorach. Baruch Adonai Hamivorach, Hamivorach leolam va'ed. Hamivorach, Hamivorach leolam va'ed. So we'll read the English here that we've got. Somebody want to read? You got a volunteer? Grab a mic. Come on down. Mics are good for you.
Praise to you, Adonai our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way in which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars. Creator of the tide of time and light, you guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai our God, from whom the evening flows.
So we'll now move on to Ahavat Olam. I would say, turn to page so-and-so, except it's like turn your eyes to the next scrolling thing on the screen. So this is good. This is my... Give me a second. Ahavat Olam Beit Yisrael Amcha ve'avta Amcha Torah u'mitzvot Chukim u'mishpatim Otanu limadeta, Otanu limadeta. Alkein Adonai Eloheinu b'shochbenu, Uvkumenu nasiya b'chukecha, V'nisma b'divrei Toratecha, U'mitzvotecha leolam va'ed. Ki hem hayenu v'yorech yameinu uvahem nega yomam v'layla yomam v'layla v'ahavtcha al tasir mimenu leolamim Baruch atah Adonai Ohev amo Yisrael Ohev amo Yisrael Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. שם כבוד מלכותו לעולם ועד. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל Try it again. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתן לבניך בשבתך ובביתך ולכתך בדרך ושכבך ובקומך ושרתם לעוד על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם. So again, do we have another reader? Do you want somebody want to volunteer? Otherwise, no, Karen, excellent.
Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, and that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands and marching together.
So we'll continue with Mi Chamocha. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, norat hilot osefel, norat hilot osefel. Malchutecha rahu vanecha, okeam lidnei Moshe uMiriam, ze'eli anu v'yamru, Adonai yimloch leolam va'ed. Leave it there. And then we will continue with right, which is Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom v'hamidenu shomreinu l'chaim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom v'hamidenu shomreinu l'chaim. Baruch atah Adonai haporei sukat shalom. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael. Ve'al Yerushalayim ve'al kol amo. Ve'al Yerushalayim ירושלים שלום. ועל ירושלים ועל כל עמו, ועל ירושלים שלום. ברוך אתה, אתה אדוני הפורש סוכת שלום. שלום עלינו ועל כל עמו ישראל. שלום עלינו ועל כל עמו ישראל. שמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ובין בני ישראל, בני ישראל עוד היא לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני, עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. And now we have the introduction to the Amidah. Adonai sifatai tiftachu fi yagiteim. Sorry, stand. No straight instructions here. There we go. Adonai, open my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avoteinu ve'imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel ve'Elohei Leah. האל הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, האל עליון, גומל חסדים טובים וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לפני בניכם למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל, אתה רב לחושיח, מוריד הטל. מחיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיע ישועה. ונאמן אתה לחיות הכל, ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, קדושים בכל יום יכלוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day. And may this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh ha-Shabbat. Praise you, God, who hallows Shabbat, makes Shabbat holy. Ever-present one, may we, your people Israel, be worthy in our deeds and our prayer. Wherever we live, wherever we seek you, in this land, in Zion restored, in all lands. You are our God, whom alone we serve in reverence. Baruch atah Adonai, she'otcha levadcha be'ira na'vod. So from there, we're going to skip down to Shalom Rav. Very good. We're going to do familiar melody on this one. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Ki ata hu melech adon lechol hashalom. כי אתה הוא מלך אדון לכל השלום. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. וטוב בעיניך לברך את עמך ישראל בכל עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם. So this is actually, especially on a day like this, a nice chance to just think. במרומיו, sorry. הוא יעשה שלום עלינו. עושה שלום במרומיו. הוא יעשה שלום עלינו. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. So we have the Mishaberach next. I don't have a sermon. It's too hot and it's too August for a sermon. But, no, it's not that either. Whenever I do these, and I feel very naked up here doing this because I normally have my guitar and I normally can do whatever I want, but now we have this stuff, so I can't. But I wanted to touch on a little bit of Torah. We won't get into great technical analysis, but interesting bit, because I was thinking about it. Where are we now in the Torah? Saturday, tomorrow, we pick up with Book of Deuteronomy, which is the book that nobody ever hears if they're Jewish because it's in the summer and very few people go to services except us. But, the beginning of Dvarim, words in Hebrew, or Deuteronomy, falls tomorrow. And it's a very odd and interesting book. As the Deutero, the Greek, would suggest, it is a repetition to a large extent of what precedes it in short form and given in a series of speeches by the same guy, Moses. But nonetheless, it walks us back through what happened. And what I thought, I always like, even with a small group like this, getting people's ideas of this. The book starts out, Moses is making a speech, right? Which the book is basically a series of speeches, about 3 big ones and some short ones. And Moses is making a speech, and he says, gather round, and we've been through the desert, not on a horse with no name, for those of you who know that tune. But it starts out by saying, it would have taken 11 days to get here if we had gone straight, but it's taken us 40 years. And that's the first statement other than people gather around, roll up for the mystery tour. The first affirmative statement is it would have taken 11 days, but it took us 40 years. I will add that 38 of those years were spent in the same place. They went to a place called Kadesh Barnea, and they stay there for 38 years. But why? The official story is we had to knock out a generation. I've always found that to be both harsh and somewhat implausible. First of all, because even then, not everybody died in 40 years. Life expectancies were short, but they weren't that short. And so why this convoluted 40-year through, the most, the desert. This is not, hanging out in Tel Aviv by the beach. This is sitting in the sand for 40 years. And I'm happy if people have ideas about why, besides the official, we had to wipe out the Egypt generation. What was to be gained by spending 40 years, and why is the first affirmative statement in the last book of the Bible essentially, it's 11 days walk, we made it in 40 years. So if anyone has any ideas, I'm happy to hear them. Yes? Yeah, the notion is that you're punished for your sins variously. Moses goes into a long litany of you did this wrong and you did that wrong. But what kind of punishment is we'll wander around for 40 years? It'd be one thing if they struck them all down, right? But it's another thing, we're just going to waste time for 40 years, which is basically what they do. He let them linger in the desert for 40 years. Then he wiped them out. Yes, Karen. actually like that, because one of the comments I was going to make on that point is what follows is Moses recapitulates the famous line which we as good progressive Jews repeat all the time, where he notes that I believe it's in Leviticus, I'm trying to remember, but where he says, I can't run this ship myself. We have to gather, we will pick leaders among you. You'll pick leaders of your tens and your hundreds and your thousands and whatever, and we will operate justly. And I think, to me, maybe because I'm a lawyer, there is an aspect of the 40 years as something of a training ground, of a learning to, when you're slaves, even if you're not slaves, when you're not responsible for running your own affairs, that's a bad state of affairs, but it's also an easy state of affairs, because it's someone else's problem. And as many a nation-building exercise has discovered, it's not an easy thing to become a nation. It's not an easy thing to run your own affairs. It's not an easy thing to be responsible for something other than, don't eat pork and whatever, but to actually have to run a society. And I thought that juxtaposition of we could have done this in 2 weeks. We took a little longer because it's like Jews leaving a bar mitzvah. And then shortly thereafter, after a bunch of, why this was, what evil things you did, that I had told you that I need you to help me run this show. And I thought, very much along the same lines that you mentioned, Karen, that it takes time to build a team. It takes time to build a country. It builds time to build an identity. And even leaving the sort of psychological part of it aside, just from a functional standpoint, it takes a long time to do that. It's not something, people aren't born knowing how to manage a civilization. There was no evolutionary need to know how to run a city or an army or a court or whatever. Yes. Oh, I in the chat. Yes, fire away. Oh, Laura, I apologize. Why don't I? Right. Okay, so we've done that one. Karen, why don't I give you the mic so you can, what you said, so in fact, both of you, if you want to. Come on down. This is like a Price is Right.
Hi. What I said was that it takes a very long time and a time of struggle to figure out how to go from a state of slavery to freedom. And perhaps that's why they had to go through all that time. And it was a time of learning for them, and it was also a time of learning for Moses, who was trying to do it all on his own, and then his father-in-law said, "You're wiped, you can't do it." And then he got people, the leaders, to help him. So it was really a whole time of learning for the people. Yeah.
Do you want to repeat your comment? I should names. I'm Dave. Arnold, nice to meet you. Shabbat shalom. There you go.
I said that the traditional explanation is that the generation who worshipped the golden calf were deemed not to be fit to take possession of the land of Canaan, the land of Israel, and the 40 years was to allow that generation to die off.
Thanks. Okay, by the way, if there are questions or comments, or Dave, you're an idiot, or anything like that, from those who are watching online, that's, if we can engage those people as well, that's great. We'll take an extra minute. If not, we can, wrap this little Torah bit up. But I'm happy to answer or respond to anybody's comments. Okay, we will assume we've had enough on that. By the way, apropos of the notion of Canaan, going into the nation of Canaan, if you actually read in Deuteronomy a little bit of presaging what will come up in Joshua and Judges, there's Moses doesn't just say, "You will go and take the land of Israel," and the land of Canaan. There's all this as far as the hills of Lebanon, as far as the river of Euphrates, there's an awful lot of kind of grandiose cheering the people on to their, obviously, even at the greatest, if you take the greatest claim of the greatest extent of the United Kingdom, not England, but the kingdom of Israel and Judah, they were never, they weren't up in northern Syria and all this, but there is Moses's exhortation to do this is quite the commander's, all the good hill country and the land up to the Euphrates and over to the sea and in the hills of Lebanon, and you're going to get all of this, except one last point that I think is really interesting. You're going to take this land, you're going to take that land, you're going to conquer this other land. The one land that they're instructed, you cannot conquer, you will not conquer, I will not let you conquer, and you're not going to conquer, is the land of Edom. Who, in the Bible tradition, whose land is Edom? It's Esau. And Moses, specifically referencing God, says, you can take all this other land, but I gave this land to Esau. I won't get into that. It's another long, interesting analysis. But that's after this whole bit about, you're going to conquer, from sea to shining sea, except, this neck of the desert where Esau's people live. Okay, on that note, thanks for putting up with me on that one. And we can move to the Mishaberach. And I think I've got the Mishaberach list here, which these are people in need of healing. And we wish them, obviously, the best and all that. So we have, for this week, we have Lori Blum, Gloria Sancho, Jenny St. George, Chava Gittel bat Frida, Yona Chaya bat Miriam, Ruth bat Binyamin v'Chava, Steve Brown Inns, Yona Tevye ben Label v'Gitahenya, Renee Fishzone, Moshe ben Leah, Nancy Lazar, Delroy Elaine, Max Estroff, Chaya bat Frida, Chaim, Kim Petchek, Peggy Einhorn, Bruce Nygren, Eleanor Shapiro Nygren, Bella Rivka bat Shmuel Pesach ve'Esther, Susan Sonkin, David Stephen Cohen, Andrea Feller, Peter Hort, Vlada Rusev, Nick Boyer, Eileen Dernfeld, Tom Walton, Chris Adam, Tim Weber, Jay Wertheimer, Ari Gilbert, Michelle Goldsmith, Richard Nicholson, and Shani Sokolov. And anyone else out there, a name? And do we have any names from those who are participating online? Nope. Okay, so we will sing Debbie Friedman's Mishaberach. Mishaberach avotenu mikor habracha limotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Mishaberach imotenu mikor habracha leavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen. Okay, so we will add, that one will also go to Ben Versh. Okay. Sorry, I didn't see that before. Okay. Michael, nice to meet you.
No. Yeah. Face the other way. If I face that way, how am I going to read? Our guardian of life and liberty, may our nation always merit your protection. Grant our leaders wisdom and forbearance. May they govern with justice and compassion. Help us to appreciate one another and to respect the many ways that we may serve you. May our homes be safe from affliction and strife, and our country sound in body and spirit. Amen. Okay.
For the state of Israel, anybody want to read this one?
O Heavenly One, Protector and Redeemer of Israel, bless the state of Israel, which marks the dawning of hope for all who seek peace. Shield it beneath the wings of your love. Spread over it the canopy of your peace. Send your light and truth to all who lead and advise, guiding them with your good counsel. Strengthen the hands of those who defend our holy land. Grant them deliverance and adorn them in a mantle of victory. Establish peace in the land and fullness of joy for all who dwell there. Okay.
So we'll continue with Aleinu. This is Arise, right? Everybody please rise. Aleinu לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שהוא שם חלקנו לחיי שמו, וגורלנו לחמליך מלכותו. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. So we'll now pick up with V'ne'emar at the bottom of the screen, I guess. ונאמר וחיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד. So we turn now to the section that leads to and into the mourner's Kaddish. You can be seated for now. We'll go read through the lines and the lines that we can stand again after. I have the list of those who have died in the Shloshim in the past 30 days, and also who we have a yahrzeit for, and I'll read those. And if, of course, we'll end in case we missed anybody, please let me know. For the Shloshim, we have Irving Gottbaum and Nehama Nikki Rosenbaum, Dan Rosenbaum's mom. And then for yahrzeits, we have Rebecca Herder, mother of Leon Herder, Mary Carter, remembered by Sabina Turk, Sylvia Rabinowitz, grandmother of Michelle Carney, Hilda Honey Graubard Marcoux, mother of Aaron Marcoux, Sophia Benson, mother of Melissa Benson, Hila Gross, sister of Barbara Charton, Helen Gans, maternal grandmother of Michael Marcus, Margarita Tardet, friend of Robin Slade, Elliot Dorfman, father of Diana Deutsch, Ruth Romanow, mother of John Romanow, Irene Dash, great-grandmother of Mordecai, Rose, Laurie, and Orrin Moore, Rabbi David Seligson, father of Jill Braver, Angela Bilek, mother of Mary Lou Bilek, Louis Lassen, father of Laurie Lassen, Arthur Ingermar, husband of Rosalie Ingermar, Harvey Zucker, father of Scott Zucker, Martha Bertish, mother of Jan Erica Bertish, Sophie Wolf, remembered by the BHS community, June Yozel Corman, mother of Judith Fishman, Henry Broud, grandfather of Ben and Ruth Tallman, Elaine Shane, mother of Laurie Heller, Edna Tierston, mother-in-law of Jane Myers, Lorraine Pivnik, mother of Billy Pivnik, Joe Ward, father of Shana Rizawi, Ruth Dorff, sister of Sylvia Frank and Michael Lasky, and Joseph Raskin, grandfather of Ray Raskin. And now I'll ask you all to rise for the mourner's Kaddish. Together. Yitkedal v'yitkadash shemei rabba be'alma divra chirute v'yamlich malchute b'chai chon v'yomei chon v'chayed kol beit Yisrael ba'agala v'zman kari v'imru Amen. Yehi shmei rabba mevarach le'olam alma almaya יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה בריחו לעילא מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה תאמירן בעלמא ואמרו אמן. יהי שלום הרבה מן שמיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. Do we have any announcements that we're supposed to make? It's always, always want to check. From my days, my presidential days, you have to always make announcements. Sue is doing the Chavarah tomorrow, if anyone wants to participate in that. And you can hear more about Devarim for the first 3 chapters of the book of Deuteronomy that are the portion. You can dig it. That's always good. They really dig into that well. Really good grind on that. For a concluding tune, this is one. It is at the beginning. If you want to try to find it, it's one of the first tunes, Adonai Oz. It's like on. If not, the song has like 4 words. But do we? No, keep going. We're gonna find it. We are gonna find it. Keep going down. No, you had it. You had to go down. There it is. Last thing there. Adonai oz li'amo yitain. Adonai yivarech et amo v'shalom. Adonai oz li'amo yitain. Adonai oz li'amo yitain. Adonai oz le'amo yiten. Adonai yivarech et amo. Let's do it again. Adonai oz le'amo yiten. Adonai oz le'amo yiten. Adonai oz le'amo yiten. Come on down. Adonai varech. Get it on the mic. Get amo. Come on. Adonai over here. Oz le'amo yiten. Come on. Adonai oz le'amo yiten. Adonai oz le'amo yiten. Adonai varech et amo. Shabbat Shalom, and thank you all.